Fun fact, planet Earth is 4.5 billion years old. Mankind, about 140,000 years old. Let me put that in perspective. If you condense the Earth's lifespan into 24 hours, that's one full day, then we have been here on this planet for, drum roll please, 3 seconds. 3 seconds. And look what we've done. We have modestly named ourselves Homo sapiens, meaning wise man. But is man really so wise? Smart, yes, and it's good to be smart, but not too smart for your own good. Yes, we have split the atom. Yes, we build clever machines that navigate the universe in search of new homes, but at the same time, those atoms we split created nuclear warfare. In our quest to explore the galaxy, rejects and neglects the home that we have here now, so no, that cannot be wisdom. Wisdom is different. While intelligence speaks, wisdom listens, and we willingly covered our ears to Mother Nature's screams and closed our eyes to all of her help-wanted signs. Wisdom knows that every action has an equal and opposite reaction, so if we were wise, we would not be shocked when we see storms that are stronger than ever before, or more drought, hurricanes, and wildfire than ever before, because there's more pollution than ever before, more carbon, more trees cut down than ever before. At a record pace, we have increased the extinction of animals by 1,000 times the normal rate. What a feat. In the next 10 to 100 years, every beloved animal character in every children's book is predicted to go extinct. Lions gone, rhinos gone, tiger, gorilla, elephant, polar bear gone. In 3 seconds. Species that have been here longer than us will be gone because of us. In this 3 seconds. In an existence shorter than a Vine video, we turn the circle of life into our own personal conveyor belt. Somebody, anybody help. We were given so much, the only planet in this solar system with life. I mean, we are 1 in a million. No, actually, scientifically, we are 1 in a billion, trillion. That's a 1 followed by 33 zeros. And I don't want to get too spiritual, but how are we not a miracle? We are perfectly positioned to the sun so we don't burn, but not too distant so we don't turn to ice. Goldilocks said it best, we are just right. This paradise where we are given medicine from trees, not coincidentally, but because like the song says, we are family. Literally, everything, every species is connected genetically, from the sunflower to the sunfish. And this is what we must recognize before it's too late, because the real crisis is not global warming, environmental destruction, or animal agriculture. It is us. These problems are symptoms of us, byproducts of us. Our inner reflection, loss of connection has created this misdirection. We have forgotten that everything contributes to the perfection of Mother Nature. Corporations keep us unaware and disconnected, but they have underestimated our strength. Contrary to popular belief, millions are waking up out of their sleep, seeing our home being taken right up under our feet. We cannot allow our history to be written by the wicked, greedy, and loony. It is our duty to protect Mother Nature from those who refuse to see her beauty. Call me crazy, but I believe we should have the right to eat food that's safe, with ingredients we can pronounce, drink water that is clean, marvel at trees, breathe air free of toxins. These are natural rights, not things that can be bargained for in Congress. See, they want you to feel powerless, but it has been said that something as small as the flutter of a butterfly's wing can cause a typhoon halfway around the world. Well, when enough people come together, we too will make waves and wash the world into a new era filled with love and connection, freedom for all without oppression. But it is up to you, yes, you watching this behind this screen, to make the effort, because time is of the essence, and only together can we make it to the 4th second.
Good evening, my fellow Rotarians, and welcome to the third in our series of 4 virtual breakouts that focus on the very important initiatives undertaken by Rotarians in our 2 zones. My name is Marcy Ullum. I'm a past district governor and served as the program chair for the recent summit. And as a result of that, we identified 4 topics that we felt were of interest to you. Tonight, we focus on protecting our environment, a responsibility that falls to each of us. 10 million tons of plastic are dumped into our oceans every year. 2/3 of the population of wild animals have declined since 1970. 200 years ago, there were less than 1 billion residents on the planet. Today, there are 7.9 billion and still growing. Our impact is undeniable, but our ability to change course of our direction is unquestionable. Tonight, our host, past Rotary International President Barry Rassin, will introduce three passionate individuals who are, each in their own way, focused on making a difference in our world. Please help me welcome past RI President Barry Rassin.
Good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to see you. Thank you so much, Marcy, for the introduction. And welcome all to our discussion this evening on how each of us can be part of protecting our environment. If each and every one of us would review how we live in our world and what one or two small things we might change collectively could have a great impact. We can make a difference. And think if we could get our Rotary Club members all involved. Exponentially, we change the world. And remember, little things make a difference. We need to recycle responsibly. We could walk more or take public transportation. We could replace our lights with LED bulbs. We could repair and reuse, and so many more things that can have a little impact on our lives, but impact for our environment. Tonight, we're really excited to hear the stories of Chris, Salvador, and Danielle as they share what they're doing to make the world a better place for now and for future generations. We want to hear from you, so questions and answers will be after all three present. Please put your questions in all caps in the chat box, and they will be asked when we get to that point in the presentation. So first, let's hear from Dr. Christopher Puttock. Dr. Christopher Puttock, Chris, who I consider a friend as we have been on panels before. He's a botanist with more than 4 decades experience in environmental conservation and habitat restoration. Chris has been a Rotarian since 2004 and is a founding director of the Environmental Sustainability Rotary Action Group. We all know SRAG. And by the way, we should all be members of SRAG. He is the executive director from inception in 2015 until 2018, and then chair-elect and chair for 19 to 21, and projects division director 21-22, and is now senior advisor, having just termed out from the board. He's a member of the Rotary cadre of technical advisors and the incoming chair of the Rotary Action Group's Council. He's the program manager for mangrove projects in Rotary and Rotary representative at COP27. Please join me in a great Rotary welcome for Chris. Chris, take it away.
Thank you so much, Barry, for the introduction. I will share my screen. Bring it up now. I hope you can all see that. So I would like to start by saying the new area of focus gives us a great opportunity to imagine what we can do in the environment, but also it gives us the opportunity to look at what we can do for the environment. Okay, so I'd like to first start by saying we have been given by the United Nations Environment Sustainability Goals, some areas that we can really concentrate on for environmental sustainability. And so I'd like to imagine carbon as being one of the most important things that we look at in association with our environment today. We're looking at blue carbon, which is essentially life in water. We're looking at green carbon, which is life on land. And then we're looking at black carbon, which is basically what's causing climate change. And then I would like to think about clear carbon, which is the gold, actually the diamonds from carbon that are partnerships that we have to really start looking at and working with across all of Rotary. A book that's associated with carbon now is the Carbon Almanac. And if you haven't seen it, I'd like everybody to look this up. Carbon Almanac is just the website is Carbon Almanac. They will give you weekly updates or even daily updates on things to do for the environment. So friends, where are we today? This is my outline really quickly. What is the environment where we're sitting in a Zoom like we are now? Where do we go wrong? Looking at Rotary life below water on land and climate, what Rotary now offers within the environment, 12 action goals. And then what's the fuss about mangroves? I've been connected with mangroves for Rotary for the last 12 months or so. Global grants, and then just the launch of a challenge for Rotary Ecology Day, which is the 1st of November. So where are we at with the environment? And let me say that surrounding Barry Rassin and a little bit further away for a lot of us, except myself in Hawaii, of course, we're surrounded by 70% ocean, seawater and seas. And the water on land is about 1% of the water that's available in our environment. That is our fresh water, our sweet water, and the remaining of the water that is around is actually in the land. So 29% of the land which we see has water buried in it in some way or another. After World War II, there was a saying, let's fight pollution by dilution. And what that essentially meant was we can separate ourselves out from pollution by diluting it in some way and pushing it somewhere else. Back in those days, Rachel Carson drew our attention to was that humanity was not separate from the environment. Humanity was a part of the environment. We are exactly the same materials as the rest of all of nature. So what are we doing wrong? How are we killing our planet? We're cutting down 15.3 billion trees a year right now. So when Rotary International President said plant a tree for every Rotarian a year, that is just a drop in the bucket to try and make a change. We've been had 10,000 years of continuous deforestation. Industrial agriculture has not been smart agriculture, hasn't been climate smart. We've been overfishing vastly in the last 20 to 30 years and beyond the ability for a fish to replenish. 50% of the mangroves around the world have been lost through development or through sea level rise. We're polluting the planet with fossil fuels, which is the major attribute to the increase in temperature that we have today. We've polluted the world with insecticides and herbicides, which can essentially kill anything that we want to kill. And we've been polluting the world with plastics and microplastics that get absorbed into all tissues. So I just want to say that to have a perspective on nature, 92% of the natural world has been changed in the last 200 years. And that is through habitat loss, ecosystem service disruption, human destruction, and diseases. And I'd like to finish this statement by saying the climate crisis we have today will not be solved by natural solutions that we have that are before us. We will need to do those, but that will not be the main thing. Okay, so what has Rotary given us? Rotary has given us a new area of focus with some objectives for the environment. And here they are. So we're asked to conserve nature and biodiversity from species to landscape scale protection. We're asked to mitigate climate change by reducing or avoiding greenhouse gases, or ensuring that they're absorbed or stored in natural carbon sinks. Now, what I object to in this one is the ocean is seen as a carbon sink, and the temperature that's being absorbed by the ocean we should not really be thinking of the ocean as a carbon sink, but we are doing that right now. 3, facilitate sustainable and adaptable livelihoods with a smaller footprint for ourselves, strengthening environmental equality, equity by addressing socio-environmental issues that disproportionately affect marginalized communities. I'm really pleased to see that we are thinking of the environment beyond just the green space that's outside our windows. And we're actually thinking about every place where the environment interacts with humanity. So quickly, the 12 action goals that were given in the new guidelines for the environment. These first 8 were there 2 years ago when the environment area focus was set into place. The first one deals with conservation, so protecting and restoring lands. The second one is restoring the resources, capacity building for the use of natural resources and sustainable development. And then the third is it's to do with food, supporting sustainable agriculture. Energy is the fourth. Everybody thought that this is going to be climate change, but really what we're addressing is how we use energy. So getting off fossil fuels, using more of the sun and sun-driven winds and waves that we can use to generate electricity for our future, not emitting greenhouse gases. Resilience is how we then react to the changes that are happening around us, and particularly those to do with climate change, but strengthening the ecosystems and communities affected by climate change. The sixth is one that I always think is curious as being there, because I believe that education precedes everything that we need to do in any of our areas of focus, and particularly the environment. We have to know what we're doing. We have to help our constituents, our people, work through to get to a place where they understand nature and understand how we fit into nature and minimize our footprint. Then the economy, the circular we've been talking about circular economy for a while, which basically means that when we produce something, we should have an end use for that product, and so a new use once it's been used up the first time. Health is to do with essentially justice issues, environmental justice and equity, and health concerns that are associated with what comes out of our living in the environment. And then we were given 4 new action goals. One of these was actually embedded for a long time, is scholarships, which is number 11. Land use and protected areas, and basically involved in how we interact with the tools that we use in the environment, and also the people and places and governments that we have that have jurisdiction over lands. So, and the excluded goals are the same ones as were excluded before. You can't do a small project like reforestation along in a small space. You can't do something along a river, of a cleanup along a river in a small space. You can't, for a global grant, you can't do something that's just 1 or 2 pollinator gardens. None of these are going to work. You have to do things on a larger scale. So I'm now going to get to how successful we've been in the last 14 months or so. 21 of these projects have gone to scholarships. 5 have gone to environmental education awards. The grants have gone to conservation, biological conservation, 4 to energy, putting solar panels on roofs of schools and the like. 3 are to do with food systems, 2 are to do with pollution abatement, and 2 are to do with circular economy. Now, there are some areas, action goals that have been left out, and these haven't been covered yet, but there are some I know that are coming down the pike that will be funded. But there's so much opportunity in the environment to do a global grant. And I'd like everybody to think about how they can engage their clubs and districts in global grants, because I think last year we probably left a lot of dollars on the table from the DDF would have been available to us for global grants for the investment. Taking a breath and going on to mangroves and what happened in COP26. Sheikha Mehta was there and committed Rotary to doing global grants for the restoration of mangroves. Now, just let me tell you, there had been no global grant for mangroves before. There had been a couple of small club grants that were just a few $1,000s. And now we're looking at projects of $30,000 to $160,000 for mangrove projects. I just happen to be the person who had 15 years experience with working with mangroves around Australia and the world. And also as the chair of the Environmental Sustainability Action Group. And so that gave me the opportunity to be taken up by this project to go forward for creating mangrove restoration projects around the world. So we will be reporting on this in COP27 just in a few weeks' time. Jennifer Jones, Judith Dement and I and others will be there. Just really quickly, why mangroves are important. They provide buffers from coastal protection, they do water filtration, they attract tourists, they are vastly the most important marine fishery nursery for fish that go out into coral reefs. They do provide some climate regulation, and there's a whole story associated with that, which I won't go into right now. And they provide a lot of ecosystem services like beekeeping and honey production, just as an example, which we'll hear a little bit about more in a moment or two. The threats are that we are knocking down mangroves for all sorts of reasons. For coastal development, you can see them around here, pollution, for agriculture, and just logging. There's just so many threats that we have to our mangroves right now. And this just is an illustration about around the world. Most of the mangroves are being lost for shrimp farm production across Southeast Asia, the orange patches that you can see in this diagram. Just really quickly, global grants. I've been working on around about 20 to 25 global grants right now, and some of these are through to being submitted to Rotary International for approval. Close to $1 million in the Commonwealth country ones, and 650,000 plus for the ones in non-Commonwealth countries moving forward. And finally, I'd like to say this is a challenge that I'd like to do. I'd like to set up a challenge of a question of how are Ian's trees doing? And so we're 5 years on from when Ian asked us all to plant a tree for every Rotarian. We have an app for that. We have an application called iRotary, where we're capturing the information about Ian's plantings of trees and where they are now. In fact, this app can be used for collecting data on any planting project around the world. And so if you planted trees and you'd like to get them into this app, then we can then help every Rotarian track those trees over the years and see how they're doing. My final slide is to say that every week we have presentations on environmental topics from SRAG, And the one next week is on microplastics by probably the most significant person in shellfish science in America and perhaps the world in the last 20 years. Is going to give a presentation on what she has found out about microplastics and how they're being reported in the literature. So I'd like to leave it there. Thanks for the opportunity to speak to you today.
Thank you, Chris. Very comprehensive report. You squeezed a whole lot into a short period of time. And I appreciate that. So we're going to move on. Remember, we're going to come back to questions after all three speakers have taken their allotted time. And our next speaker is Salvador Rico. I've also worked with Salvador in the past, and he's been a Rotarian for over 15 years. He's a member of the Rotary Club of South Ukiah, California, in District 5130. Salvador began river cleanup projects with his Rotary Club in 2009. And since then, he's helped start river cleanup projects with the support of Rotary clubs in different countries. Currently, thanks to WashRag and SRAG River Cleanup Challenge, this project has crossed continents. He is significantly involved in the Adopt a River, a UNEP Rotary program involving Rotary clubs to work on and adopt their rivers, creeks, lakes, and watersheds. Salvador has helped organize an environmental tour in Mexico, highlighting environmental projects on the River Lermi Santiago, Rio Amica, and Lake Iguala, and I hope I didn't destroy the pronunciation, involving Rotary clubs in districts 4140, 4170, and 4185. Rotarians and Rotaractors from USA, Canada, Mexico, and other countries are participating. The environmental tour is taking place this October from 20 to 26, 2022. So please, let's all welcome Salvador and a great Rotary welcome.
Thank you, Vice President Barry. It's great to see you. So why the rivers? Why is so important? A little story. In 2009, I had the opportunity to do my first river cleanup with my Rotary Club, and we were able to take out mounds of garbage, all the way from tires, refrigerators, mattresses, whatever you can imagine. And I asked my past district governor, Charlie Kelly, what can we do? Because this is a big problem that happens everywhere. And I've seen that happen in Mexico. I said, can we take this project to Mexico? And so we did. 2013, we took, 9 years ago, we took that idea to do a river cleanup project there. And since then, we haven't stopped. We've done many cleanup projects, and we connected with many organizations to be able to make a difference and finding out why the pollution exists. Well, it exists because of us. So we know that there's a lot of pollution on the rivers, and that pollution affects everyone. It affects the on-the-ground water table. It affects the vegetation around it. And when it comes out on the ocean, it affects the marine life. In Puerto Vallarta, in 2018, we asked the Rotarians to join in and do a cleanup in the Rio Pitillal. And soon enough, we found out that the Mexican government shut down an island that they used to use for tourism because it was so polluted and so damaged because of the outflow of the Ameca River, of all the pollution. It took over a year for them to be able to put that area that they use as tourism, as an income for themselves, to be brought back to be open for the public. I want to share with you, since we know that the issue that exists of the things that we've been doing and the things that you might be able to replicate in your own community. So once again, Salvador, I've been a Rotarian since 2007. So what are the things that you can do? Chris mentioned that no, we cannot do a cleanup project and make it a global grant. True, if that is only a one-time event. But if it is a program, then yes, you can make a global grant to clean up the rivers, to clean up the lakes, to clean up the ocean. And this is an example that Rotarians are doing in Bosnia, where they made a global grant to clean up this particular river, to make it sustainable, purchasing this boat and doing a program to continue cleaning up the river. So yes, that is one of the options that you can do a global grant. to clean up a river, as long as it is not one-time deal. Another global grant in the River Nile, and that is also to purchase another boat and do a program to continuously clean up the River Nile, and with the plastic, develop a second phase, which will be creating blocks for building homes with the plastic collected on the river itself. So we found that the Lake Iguala is something that is going to be part of this environment tour that we're doing this week together with Chris Puttock and Rotary International Environment Area Focus Keith Madden. It is going to be visiting this particular lake in Lake Iguala, in which the Rotarians have partnered with the communities to make sure that there's no more plastic going into the lake itself, and also to install check dams to prevent the mud slides from reaching out the lake, at the same time doing a reforestation project. And as Chris mentioned also, there is an educational component part of the global grant as part of the sustainability. So again, we mentioned about the pollution on the rivers. This picture was taken back in 2018 of the River Lerma Santiago, a site that we're going to go and visit in this environment tour in a few more days in District 4140 near Guadalajara, Mexico. What we can do in here, one thing is, I'm just a simple Rotarian, we cannot do much about the pollution in the river because of the industry. Well, we can find solutions and provide those solutions to the industry, such as new technology to purify their waters, to treat their water so it doesn't go into the river and stop the pollution right there where it begins, in their own facilities. What is the benefit for them? Great PR, investment into their own facilities, a tax write-off. So you need to find, as a Rotarian, what can you do to be able to make a change without having to spend a single penny? And when it is necessary, make sure it's a global grant, because then it expands your reach. So in the upper basin of the River Lerma Santiago, right where it begins, we found that there is over 2 kilometers in length of nothing but garbage right on the River Lerma, a site that we've been cleaning up since last June and continues to be cleaned up. Why so long? Why is taking so long? Because this area has been neglected and nobody has done anything. But we partner with the municipalities, with the counties, and continue doing their efforts. In this environment tour, we're going to visit this particular site, and we'll be doing a hands-on cleanup with our friend Rotarians there. And again, in partnership with the different organizations. In September 25th, we launched the Adopt the River with a partnership with the United Nations Environment Program. And so with that, we have another level of partnership. Our friends are Rotarians in the border of Mexico and the USA, have been doing also a phenomenal job doing the cleanups also on the Rio Grande, Rio Bravo, and they are doing global grants as well. So in our community, in our city, Ukiah, California, we partner with Fish and Wildlife and also Waterkeeper Alliance to make sure that we work on the river banks and organize river cleanups all along the 180 miles length of the river itself. We're still finding out, trying to figure out how we can do a global grant in this area. But what we find is many times when we try to do something, there's already a program. So we want to make sure we don't repeat what already exists. As Chris mentioned, the mangroves are extremely important, but at the same time, we need to protect them upstream, prevent the pollution from reaching out the mangroves, all the way from plastic pollution, chemical runoffs, etc. And so that is part of thinking upstream. For our environment tour, if you are able to come, we're still time. We're going to be doing the tour on the 20th. It's just a couple of days away. But better yet, you can actually sponsor it or be part of the tour itself from the comfort of your own home if you want to sponsor one of the many projects that are being done in this particular environment tour. And what we're doing this is not just simply going on vacation. We're actually doing hands-on projects and supporting the environment projects that Rotarians are doing all along the River Lerma Santiago. Partnerships are extremely important, and can't say enough about WASH and their support with their River Cleanup Challenge launched back in 2017, ESRAG, and Rotarian Action Group for Economic Development giving us the guidance on how to make sure to make it sustainable and create some sort of economy when we do anything environment related. The partnership that we just developed with the United Nations Environment Program and the Adopt the River is something that is going to reach out to all the Rotary clubs around the globe who wants to be part of this particular program. It's up to the clubs to decide who would like to join in. Our past president of Rotary International, Barry Rassin, attended with us the Mississippi Cities and Towns Initiative. It is an alliance of all the mayors along the Mississippi River. And this is something that I just had the opportunity to attend again about a month ago, because I see it's a great opportunity to connect with our civic leaders without having to get involved in politics. They care about their communities, they care about the environment, and so do we. So partnering with our civic leaders in our cities, in our regions is very, very important without having to get involved with politics. That's something totally different. Taking care of the community is one thing. Politics, we don't do that at all. As Chris mentioned, we have developed the iRoad tree. It's something that has been in use for quite a bit, but we added the feature for the river projects. If you're doing any kind of river cleanup and sanitation, riverbank restoration, watershed restoration, you can add it to the iRoad tree app. And in there, you can add all the technical information that you need to, all the way to the bottom of the water sampling, the type of chemicals you found on your testing, as intense as you want it to be, or as simple as you want it to be. But at the same time, you're sharing the data with everyone around the globe. It's something that we encourage you to use the iRoad tree app. Any kind of environment project you're doing, make sure you share with everyone. With Adopt a River project, Adopt a River program, this is something you can also sign up with it and make a commitment as intense or as simple as you want it to be, as depends on what your club bandwidth is. And then you can, again, there are several different levels of commitment when you adopt your river, your creek, your lake, your watershed, and including the underground water table in your region. Whatever we do today is going to benefit our children. If we don't do nothing, our children will pay the price. But if we become more proactive, we will make sure we leave a better place for our children. With that, thank you for the opportunity to share with you the things that you can do as a simple or as a complex as you like.
Thank you so much, Salvador. I really appreciate your presentation. Also, what you and Chris are doing to make our environment so much better. Really, you're both dedicated and committed, and Rotary really appreciates that. Our next speaker, who I have not worked with, but I do know that beekeeping is extremely important to our environment. So much so that on Saturday, at a District 7600 conference, they had a whole presentation on beekeeping, which was fascinating. I'm learning so much, I might have to go out and get myself a hive. Anyway, Danielle Brooks, founder of the Honey Truck Company. One day, drinking a cup of tea, of course with honey, Danielle thought how awesome it would be to have her own hive to harvest from. So she started researching bees and how to keep them. What started with one beehive quickly turned into a full-scale business, the Honey Truck. The mission of Honey Truck is to educate others about honeybees, native pollinators, and ways we can help conserve their habitats. Danielle now maintains multiple hives all over the city of St. Augustine, as well as partners with other small-scale beekeepers across the state. She is a master beekeeper through the University of Florida's Master Craftsman Beekeeper Program, and is an active member of the St. Johns County Beekeepers Association. Danielle is also a certified honey judge. That's a great name, and has won multiple awards for her honey in competitions across the state of Florida. Please, let's give Danielle a warm Rotary welcome. Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm hoping that you guys can all hear me and see me as well. But yes, a little bit about myself. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen with you guys. Okay, so a little bit about myself. I'm Danielle Brooks. I'm the beekeeper. I own the Honey Truck Company here in St. Augustine, Florida. As my intro said, I am a certified master beekeeper through the University of Florida. I have done public speaking engagements all over the state. My honey has won numerous awards at honey shows. And obviously my family is there, as you can see, my sweet little babies, Lincoln and Imogen, and my husband, Rich. And I do all of my business most all of my business out of Kennedy, my 1963 Ford Econoline. And it is named Kennedy after JFK, who was assassinated in 1963. I'm a huge fan of the space program that he helped launch and create. And that was kind of how I got the name The Honey Truck. I didn't really want a brick and mortar. I wanted to be a mobile business. And that was where we just kind of got the name from. So a little bit more about honeybees, which is what we're here to learn about. Honeybees are not native to the United States. They are considered an invasive species. They were brought over through Europe. And of course, if you want to get really scientific, there's like, some people are saying they came from Africa originally, but that's neither here nor there. They live in hives and they are social. So they live together. They're not solitary. And just to give you some numbers, they are worth more than 18 billion to the United States economy alone. Simply just based on pollination services. If you look at a map of the United States, people who pollinate will travel around the edges of the United States, starting with blueberries, going up to clover, almonds, that sort of thing. And I'm not really sure how familiar you guys are with honeybees, so we're going to keep it very basic. There are 3 different roles within a hive. You have the queen bee, the worker bee, and a drone bee. The queen bee and worker bees are both females, and the drone is a fancy name for a male. And they communicate and talk and share information by dancing, called the waggle dance, within the hive. And a fun fact is that they are the only insect to produce food for humans. A little bit more information about bees is that there are 20,000 types of bees worldwide, and 4,000 of them are found in North America. And to get even smaller, there are 319, I believe that number has now changed to 315 types of native bees here in Florida, and 29 of them are endemic, meaning they're found only in Florida and nowhere else in the world, which is just a crazy awesome resource that I feel we need to protect. And part of what I do is educating people on, yes, I work with honeybees, but our native bees make up so much more to our ecological system that they're important to talk about. And 90% of those native bees are solitary, meaning the queen will emerge in the spring. She will go out on a mating flight. She will come back and lay eggs in either a hollowed out bamboo or the ground, nesting sites like gardens. What types of native bees are there? Well, there are mason bees. There are leaf cutter bees. If you're a gardener, I'm sure you might be a little perturbed at these bees chewing up your ornamental leaves and stuff, but I love it because it's like a perfect circle in nature when you see it. And there's dozens of them, and they'll cut out a little circle and they'll go back to, a hollowed out stick branch, and they'll line that branch with those leaves, and they'll lay an egg, cap it with some honey and pollen, and then they'll lay another egg and repeat that same process. Carpenter bees, I know, again, these are often looked down on in society because they can, chew holes in wood and other resources. We have sweat bees. These are very beautiful when you see them out. They are often metallic, very bright green. And there are bumblebees. These are another type of social bee that live together in a colony. This was a photo taken of a colony that had been frozen by UF for educational purposes, so that you could kind of see the nest and how they work together and what their larva and pupa stages looked like. So the big question, what is killing honeybees? Pesticides, sort of. They make up a little bit of the problem with honeybees. Bees face numerous challenges. There are parasites, there's bacteria, fungus, viruses, poor land management, poor nutrition. This was a photo that I took outside of one of my hives that unfortunately had been, they had gotten into an area that had an issue with pesticides, and it just kind of destroyed the colony. But again, that is just one of the prongs of a multi-pronged issue. St. Johns County, where I live in Northeast Florida, is growing at an exorbitant rate. We have a ton of Northerners coming down here, and all they're doing is just demolishing these trees and these ecosystems to build houses. And yes, that's great for commerce, but it's not so great for native bees or wild honeybee hives that are in these trees. We're destroying their environment. Monoculture with monoagriculture. We have huge fields of wheat. We have huge fields of just blueberry. And while blueberry is pollinated by bees, it's not creating an exactly diverse diet for this creature. And so poor nutrition can cause a hive to fail. So to keep it simple, what are ways that you can help honeybees today? We're all about action steps. So you can plant native plants. I highly recommend, the University of Florida is super great. They have all kinds of resources that you can put in. I live in Northeast Florida, or I live in South Florida, or I live, I'm sure, anywhere else in the United States, and they can give you recommendations of what grows best in your area and what is native. Don't go to Home Depot. Home Depot is a generalization of like, oh, this plant typically grows great here, but they really don't care about bees. So I would recommend finding a local nursery that grows native plants in your area and purchase from them instead. You can make native bee homes, which is what you see in this picture here. Those are tubes of bamboo that have just been cut up and put into little houses, or like the wooden hive that you see there. That would be for a solitary bee, like a leaf cutter bee, that would just line that area with those leaves and lay it young in there. And then, of course, I wouldn't be a businesswoman if I didn't say support bees, buy honey. You can support honeybees by supporting my business. You can go to honeytruck.com. We do sell our honey, and you can find out more information about us or the trucks. And I'm so thankful that you guys allowed me to share with you today. If you have any questions, always feel free to reach out to me and send me an email.
Thank you, Danielle. That's great. It's fabulous what you're doing to help our bees. Well, Claudia's going to organize our question and answer. Did anybody have any questions for any of our speakers today?
Well, we did have some interesting comments. One of the comments was the video on environment, is it available to share, and is it on YouTube? And I think that we got the answer. Marcy just wrote, it's listed on YouTube, and it is predicated by the 3 words 3 seconds, or the words 3 seconds. And if you could go to 3 seconds, you can get that video on environment that you started out seeing. There were some questions, Christopher, about the environmental grants. Can you explain a little bit more to us about how we can get an environmental grant and what the cost must be?
Okay, so a Rotary Global Grant is a grant that's more than $30,000, and it needs some district designated funds in those dollars to make it a global grant. So they're the first 2 parameters you need to have is $30,000 or more, and some district designated funds, either from your district or from your international partner. So I've mentioned 2 things you need to then have. You have to have a host club that's doing the project, and there are generally 3 members from your host club that are the primary contacts for the global grant, and then you need to have an international partner for your global grant. So we can do reverse, what we, I guess 10 or so years ago, we were calling reverse grants. People from somewhere overseas giving money into a global grant back into the Americas. We can still do those, but they're just now the global grants. If you want to have a global grant doing something across the United States anywhere, you need to have an international partner, and of course we have Canada and the United States and Mexico right next to the United States, so we can partner with them as a partner. They may actually have similar projects in their jurisdictions that they may like to do as well, and they could be two. You could have two projects that are running side by side, and you're helping each other out. So there's potentials of doing something like that. Of course, across the Caribbean, we have a lot of nations across the Caribbean. We can be working with each one of those with a project. So if we want to do something with our mangrove project in the Bahamas, then anyone in the United States could become a partner with a project in the Bahamas to do any project, including mangrove projects in the Bahamas. So that's what you need, obviously,
Yes.
to get to put your global grant proposal in. The final step is you need to have your budget together, which is essentially developed by what your need is from your community assessment.
Right.
And so that is what the package you need to build up to do a global grant. And really in a long elevator speech. I hope that helps.
Very nice, Chris. Thank you so much. Now, is Danielle, I believe this one is for you, is if someone's interested in becoming a beekeeper, is it safe to put a beehive on your property?
Generally, yes, with some caveats. We do a host a hive program here in St. Augustine where I partner with people around town and I put my bees on their property. Typical things that I immediately look for: are you in a homeowners association or a deed restricted community that has bylaws that say you cannot have beehives here? Most states are typically pretty okay, and they actually advocate for backyard beekeeping since bees are on the decline. But if you're in a deed restricted community and there's laws against that, then the state law can't really come in and trump that. I also am making sure that they're in, I wouldn't say a rural area because what I do is a lot of urban beekeeping, but that like their neighbors directly are not using pesticides, that there is a safe space on the property for the bees that can generally be away from people, not directly behind somebody's back door. And then also just taking a walk through the neighborhood. What kind of things are you going to notice that the bees are able to pollinate while they're out there, making sure that they have good forage, that it's not just a concrete jungle, so to speak. And I also noticed that one of the questions that popped up, somebody had asked that I said that their question said that bees were non-native, and then I spoke about native species. Honeybees is a genus and species, Apis mellifera, and there are thousands of different genus and species of bees out there. So Apis mellifera, which is used for pollinating tons of things in the United States, is not a native species. But there are native species, meaning we didn't import them from another country to utilize for our farming and industry. And then I also noticed another question popped up about what percentage of agriculture, or what impact do native bees have within the agricultural industry? They account for roughly $9 billion worth of the industry. So like leafcutter bees working with alfalfa or bumblebees, we do use native bees in beekeeping. There are ways that we can rear these bees and then just release them when they are ready to emerge from their cocoon, so to speak. And that's kind of how we do it, versus almonds are exclusively pollinated by honeybees. So you would take a big honeybee box and transport that around to pollinate.
Okay, thank you very much. Another question, and either Barry or Marcy, are there any bee clubs on the environment? Or maybe someone else would like to answer that. Do we have an answer to that?
There actually are quite a few clubs that have recently, over the last year or two, started as specifically a club, a cause-based club for the environment. I don't have a list of all the names. I know there's one in my district. So there are a number of them you could find.
Right. There's Barry. There's at least 30 e-clubs around the world now. No, there's one here on Oahu, and there's another one being developed on Maui, just in the Hawaiian Islands. So the e-clubs are really being pushed as a place for environmental Rotarians to congregate to do environmental actions.
Thank you, Chris. Should we, Danielle, buy local honey for better health or purchase your honey from Florida? I'm in Baltimore, Maryland.
Well, I would be a poor businesswoman if I said you shouldn't buy my honey. I would, if you are using it for allergy purposes, they do say it is best to get as close to your home as possible. But I will say that Florida offers some really great honeys that we do sell. Orange blossom honey, they're called monoflorals. So when we put a beehive out, the easiest to talk about is orange blossom. There are huge orange orchards all over the state of Florida, and we will take our honeybees just as those orange blossoms are about to bloom to make oranges, and the bees will go and pollinate that, and it creates a monofloral honey. Roughly 90% of the forage around that beehive is an orange blossom. Bees fly a 3-mile radius outside of their hive, and so that's how we're able to say it's orange blossom honey. We're also well known for saw palmetto and gallberry honeys, which are both very different. And we sell those as well. I'll make sure I throw our website in the chat, so if anybody has any questions, they can.
Thank you, Danielle. Salvador, we'll get the last question to you. I read some conflicting info on the issues around climate change. For instance, the long-term effect of solar farms on the lands once they have are no longer in function, or the materials left behind. Do you have a comment?
Anything we do is going to make a cause and effect. And so to be able to extract the materials to make solar panels, we're already affecting the environment. And I think it becomes of what are the things that we're trying to accomplish. And so the main thing is reuse, recycle, repurpose. So all the solar panels, you can still, try to give them a new life. The same thing with, for example, the electric cars. Once the batteries start to fail and you can use them on cars, you can use them on your homes. But for that, there's got to be some sort of a program and infrastructure in place. So, it is a catch-22, but it definitely gives a better outcome than what we have right now with fossil fuels.
Thank you all so much. Excellent questions and excellent answers. Barry, I'll turn it back over to you for the wrap-up.
Thank you so much, Claudia. I appreciate you taking care of that for us. And this brings us to the end of our session this evening. Let's thank our presenters again, please. You have heard some of the ways that you can get involved in this effort in river cleanup, protecting our pollinators, or planting trees and mangroves. And remember, you can join SRAG, the Environmental Sustainability Rotary Action Group. The website is being in the chat, and many districts have established committees to support these efforts. And as we said, there are clubs that are dedicated to the environment. So if your district hasn't, speak to your district leadership about doing so. And don't forget, your Rotary Club can always prioritize its service projects to address an environmental project monthly or quarterly. Get involved, please. Our future truly depends on it. We have one final virtual breakout on Wednesday, October 19th. That session is on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and will be focused on understanding both invisible and obvious disabilities and how we address inclusion in our Rotary clubs. Past Rotary International Vice President Valerie Wafer is the host, and it will be a very interesting discussion with the chair of the Board of Directors, Canadian Hearing Services, Miss Wheelchair America 2023, and a disability consultant. If you haven't registered and would like to, the link is in the chat. You will be receiving a short survey about this evening's presentation. Please take 2 minutes to complete so that we can be sure we continue to improve what we do. Thank you all for joining us this evening. Thank you again to our presenters. Good night to all. Thank you.